welcome to another edition of Leading Edge Interviews. I'm Super Dave, I'm your host. This is the show where we get to know a little bit more about what makes the modern elite players of progressive rock and metal, what makes them tick a little bit more, what goes on in their minds. One of the busiest bands out there over the last couple of years has been Soen, who put out an album a couple of years ago just ahead of the pandemic called Imperial. Then they did a lot of touring once they finally got the chance again. Toured the US, toured Europe, toured all over. And then, in the midst of doing all that, they managed to put together another album, Memorial, which came out the beginning of September. Well, I was happy enough to sit down with Cody Lee Ford, their excellent guitar player, and talk with him a little bit about the tour, what it's like touring with the band, putting together Memorial, the new flourishes and the added twists that Soen put into the mix this time around while still maintaining their signature sound and style that you know is Soen. And what I love about talking with Cody is his thoughtfulness blended with emotion in his approach to playing guitar. And it's just so cool to talk with him and get a little bit insight into what goes on with him, what goes on with the band, and the things that are important to them. So without further ado, this is my interview with Cody Lee Ford of Soen.
So how are things up there in the Great White North?
Things are good. I slept in my own bed for the first time in 2.5 months last night.
Amazing. Yeah, you guys have been doing some heavy-duty touring this year, haven't you?
Yeah, it's been pretty heavy since COVID eased up.
Yeah.
We had, I think it was like that for a lot of bands. You had so many tours canceled throughout the years, and then you had to kind of catch up with everything. And even when we worked, we would maybe have like a month off at a time.
Right.
So even when we weren't touring, we had to take that time to work on a new album or record the new album or whatever, So yeah, this is the start of a first proper break for us, so that's nice.
Yeah, which is amazing because I feel like, it's been almost a year at this point, but it seems like I just saw you guys down in Baltimore, and somewhere along the line you toured almost ceaselessly and put out an album at the same time. So I'm like, how challenging was that to be able to do all that at the same time?
Yeah, it's a nonstop job, pretty much. You have to, every chance you get, you got to be working on music. But I spent a lot of time last summer. Well, I spent most of my summers in Sweden nowadays because it's the festival season, right? So
right,
you're playing shows, once or twice every weekend kind of thing throughout the summer. So it doesn't make sense for me to fly back to Canada.
I hear that.
So I just I hang out in Sweden, and we stayed at Martin's place and just worked on the new record for like 8 hours a day whenever I was there. And then anytime we had on the tour as well, which is very tough to do because you're like pretty exhausted most of the time.
Right.
But we'd set up, a laptop and just work on the demos and everything. So yeah, lots of work happening all the time.
Yeah, that's the amazing thing that I hear all the time at this point is that whole idea of people working and recording on laptops almost as much as, if not more than, in studios these days. That's quite an amazing shift, and I got to figure a lot of it was definitely forced by COVID, but I'm not sure. But we may have already been trending that way, but COVID just made it that much more necessity. And at the end of it, people went, "Hey, I can just do this. Screw the studio."
Yep. Yeah. You're right. We were trending towards it. I think people had been recording on their laptops for quite some time, but for us personally as a band, like we were kind of let's say technological noobs. We didn't really know what the hell we were doing on laptops, but when COVID happened, it kind of forced me to get the necessary equipment and learn how to use it And so we recorded Imperial that way. It was like pretty much everybody just doing their parts at home.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the guys in Sweden were able to hook up and work together, but now, yeah, I mean, especially in the music business nowadays, there isn't as much money thrown at you to record an album. So you need to find ways to make things cheaper on yourself. And so one of the best things to do is, if you're savvy at recording your guitars at home, which is what I do now, save you a shit ton of time in the studio, right? So,
Exactly.
and studio time is really expensive. But nowadays, most bands are just recording their guitars DI, and then if you want to reamp, send that DI signal through an actual amp in the studio, you can do that after. Some bands are using plugins. There's lots of different options, but yeah, I mean, you can do so much at home now. So pretty much we do everything at home except for the vocals and the drums and all the extra production and shit like that.
Yeah, right. It's an amazing world we live in right now in that sense, and it's great because if we did not have that, I guess during COVID, a lot of it would have just been shut down completely. Nobody would have done anything.
Yeah.
That had their own studios, maybe.
Yeah, for sure. I think, I mean, I speak for most musicians that I know. When COVID happened, I think there was this idea like, well, at least this gives me time to actually work on music and record some music. And I don't think many people were as productive as they wanted to be during COVID. You kind of realize that it's hard. I mean, it was hard to be productive in such a time.
Yeah.
Because it's there's nothing really inspiring you that much, so it's a lot of work to just sit there and work on stuff. But yeah, I'm glad we got shit done. It saved my sanity.
So let's talk about Imperial a little bit, because that's not Imperial, Memorial. Pardon me.
Mm-hmm.
What a great album! Like I've been really enjoying that, and it seems you guys, on one hand, have really crystallized your voice as a band at this point. You can hear that level of consistency, both in production and composition and sound, that it goes, okay, this is definitely Soen. And you've, as a band, found that individual voice. And at the same time, it feels to me like there are parts of this album where you guys are stretching yourselves outside of what you did before. You're building upon that and going a little bit in different directions. Am I hearing correctly? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I guess since Lotus, we've kind of been trending in a direction that is maybe a little bit less like the first couple of albums. I mean, they're more proggy, definitely progressive metal. And I think now we kind of border in between the progressive metal and just metal. I mean, it's and it's just kind of where we are, where our headspace is at the moment. I think we're not just composing for the music, we're composing because we're also a live band, and we love to play songs live.
Right.
But we're also, there's a different mindset where we just want to sort of serve the song and like cut anything out that isn't really serving the song. And so, the songs maybe get a little bit shorter, a little bit more to the point, but it's is not an easy thing. What I've discovered is like just writing songs like this. It's not easy. It's actually easier to write these progressive 8-minute songs because you can just throw in a bunch of parts and it's, you know, it becomes this kind of journey and it sorts itself out kind of thing. But to really get a full idea out there in 4 or 5 minutes, and have every part of the song be very strong with the melodies and the transitions and the groove and the, you know, just the sound. It's quite difficult. It's quite difficult. So it's been a new kind of challenge for us, but we've really loved composing songs in this way. And I mean, it's always kind of carries this undertow of like, this is Soen, this is, you hear it and it sounds like Soen. But like you said, yeah, there's always a bit of evolution with each album, and that always starts with Joel. Every album he's taken his vocals to the next level. He's been able to do things with his vocals that he hasn't been able to do on previous records. So when I think of Imperial, or when I think of Lotus, I think of, you know, the part in Martyrs where he does that beautiful like falsetto head voice kind of thing. And in Imperial, I think of just the fact that he's hitting notes that were far outside his range before. And then in this album, in Memorial, he's using new techniques. I mean, he's adding a bit of rasp to his voice to make things even more distorted and heavier and aggressive. And then we're just kind of evolving around that as well.
Yeah, it's funny, you anticipated one of the questions I had on my mind that I was going to ask about was Joel stretching himself and his vocal, and you hit it right. Rasp, grit. I was looking for a good word to describe it. That there is that, because he's always had a very, and I love it, a very smooth delivery and not quite a deep voice, but in that range. I don't remember tenor, bass, baritone, whatever that stuff is. Mm-hmm. But he's always had, I think, this very nice and smooth delivery. And typically didn't go into much of the more, I forget the term now. Darn it. I'll get it later. Fry. There we go. The vocal fry kind of range or anything like that. And yet, I mean, as soon as I heard the chorus with Unbreakable, immediately I went, well, wait a minute. That's a little different than I'm used to hearing on a Soen song. Like, I know he can hit the notes. I mean, to this day, that midsection, especially at the end of it in Martyrs, just the whole thing gives me chills. Like the whole drum build up and the little quiet, and then eventually he hits that high note.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Absolutely love it. And then I hear these little different styles he's throwing in this album, and I'm going, cool. Like it's because as much as I love the Soen sound, at the same time, if you guys just churned out exactly the same stuff all the time, there's a danger of becoming stale.
Yeah.
And the fact that there's that awareness on his part and on your part and the band's part to say, hey, let's make sure we're not hitting a rut and just living there. And that even if your songs aren't 8 minutes long, to me, that's in and of itself a progressive approach.
Totally. Yeah, exactly. A progressive approach is a good way of putting it. It's interesting how people sort of label music, especially using the word progressive. There are some people that think that we aren't as progressive anymore, and then some people that think we are more progressive just because of our ability to evolve.
Yeah.
But for us, it's important. Yeah, we don't want to churn out the same records all the time. There has to be some sort of element of evolution, and I think we're in a good space right now. I mean, we finished the record, and I will say that usually when you finish a record, you've been working on it for months.
Yeah.
do you ever listen to it again? I mean, for most bands, I would probably assume, I don't, maybe a few times, but like for us, it was just, with Lotus Imperial, we were very, very proud of them. But I don't think I've ever listened to the music again. It's just, you're playing it live too all the time.
Right.
And you were just so immersed in it, and there's always like little things that maybe you're not super satisfied with, as perfectionists.
Right.
And then, you release it, you tour it, you just kind of you're moving on to the next thing all the time. But with this record, it's different. I mean, we finished it, and we've listened to it as a band a bunch of times. I mean, we were on tour when we got the final mix back, and we were listening to it. I think we were doing a tour in Mexico, and we were just listening to it, driving in between Mexican cities, and just being like, this fucking rips. And we were just, there was a sense of pride in that van.
Nice.
And we would listen to it, after the show, in the green room, and we'd invite some fans to get a sneak peek. And yeah, I mean, everybody was just really, really proud of it. We loved the mix. We just think that, the vision we had, came to light, and that's a really nice thing, just to be satisfied, and yeah. So now we're just playing this shit live, and gauging how everybody is reacting to it, and it's been phenomenal, honestly. That the crowds have really, really loved the new songs, and they're singing to all the words.
Nice.
And we have like a different palette of people in the crowds now.
That's wonderful.
Lots of kids and stuff too.
Well, sure. They can't all be old heads like me.
Yeah. It doesn't. I mean, everybody is so welcomed and appreciated. But
yeah,
when you have a family of kids just like in the front row, I mean, it's a special thing. So
that's awesome.
So it's reaching a wider audience, which is really cool.
Yeah, well, I'm glad for that. It's an album very deserving of that, because again, not just with Joel and not just some of the other things. I mean, like you guys have basically what I feel like I don't want to say it's a first time, but I think in the way they feel, because like things that I would have maybe called ballads and some of your other albums were just more like mellower songs, but they always kind of had this, I don't know how to describe it, like more of a mystical, mellow, philosophical, slightly melancholy tone. But you have some things on this album now that are a little, I guess for lack of a better term, prettier. Like Vitals, the pianos and stuff, and starting out the beginning. And I'm always kind of curious, because when that's going on, I wonder for you, how does that impact your approach to adding guitars into that? Because I don't know, I guess I would suspect in some ways, if there's this really nice, pretty piano melody, there might be, I don't know, hesitation of putting too much in, and making sure you complement it. So I'm curious, like, your thought process when it comes then to you putting your parts in.
Yeah, I mean, for songs like that, and I'll say that Vitals is one of actually my favorite Soen songs of all time.
Wow.
And it's that's actually a brain baby of Lars, and he did a lot of work on that song. And but yeah, I mean, it's really important to have a song like that. The bare bones is already there, and so you just need to add exactly what it needs. I mean, songs are like a cookie recipe, right? I mean, you can't put too much butter, you can't put too much flour, you can't put too much sugar. It's got to be the right amount of everything for it to turn out the way it should. And a song like that, it demands a lot of space and ambience. You don't want to shit all over the song, you know. And it goes for all of us,
Right.
you know, especially the drums. I mean, Martin is he's a legend in his own right, and I think most people will say that because of his prowess, but
Right.
a big part of his genius is playing drums on a song like that.
Right.
The way he just lays back and he lets the song do the talking, you know. I think it's hard for drummers, especially ones that are very technically advanced, to do that kind of thing and actually play with feel. So yeah, it's, and the ballads on the record all require that sort of mindset, and in a lot of ways they're harder to compose than the heavier songs, because the heavier songs is just like, this riff goes into this riff,
Right.
goes into this riff, you know. For this, it's more of like, what can we put on the song that is unnoticeable but still serves the song, you know, it's still there, it's like creating something in the background. So it's a tricky thing.
Yeah, no doubt. And you guys pulled it off like really, really well. And in that sense, that's to me where I think they picked the right guy for their lead guitar. Because one, I mean, as much as this album's getting these strong reviews, Vitals is one of the ones that stands out. Other ones that stand out, Tragedy, and I think I'm saying that right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, one, the guitar solo is really, really awesome. And on that one, I can hear more than a lot of the songs that clear David Gilmour influence. And I know he's one of your, one of your influences in the background there. You can hear it a lot of times here and there, just the way the lick is hit and the way it's in there, and the spacing and the way you use restraint to build on the song without, overflowing it, without dominating it. And then you got a song like Fortress, and oh my God, the solo that set air guitars in motion worldwide, I think, on that one, that was absolutely kick-ass. So you've got that range there, and it kind of dawns on me. I'm sitting there thinking, this, third time I've spoken to you, and I can't recall that we've really talked about your influences as a guitar player. Like, who are the ones that you tend to look to, past and present, that are inspiring your style?
Yeah. Well, of course, we've touched on Gilmour. Gilmour, to me, when it comes to just playing with soul, let's say, to me, it just transcends the soul thing. I mean, playing with soul. I mean, there's lots of guitar players that play with soul, but he has this way of playing that speaks to the human condition somehow, in a way that it just touches on the way we feel sadness or empathy or that anger or something that is inside you, or that sorrow that just like wants to scream out of you, that is impossible to put into words. So he's always had this thing when I listen to his playing, like when I listen to the guitars, the solos on a song like Sorrow, it just sounds like he is fucking screaming from his for very deep inside, you know, and it's just this like otherworldly thing. I mean, it just the way it just there's some sort of sympathetic resonance that happens in your body when you hear stuff like that maybe your body hasn't felt before. And so like when I'm writing solos that need need to be emotional, I guess naturally the Gilmour influence kind of comes out, because that's just what makes me feel something.
Yeah,
it's his playing. But when it comes to the more technical and shredly type of stuff, I mean, you know, when you're a teenager and you're in your room for like 7 hours a day. I was watching, I'll say Paul Gilbert was a big one. Van Halen was a big one. I think one of the biggest ones for me actually was Alexi Leo, Children of Bodom. I would get home from school every day, and my brothers and I, we had like 3 or 4 concert DVDs. One was like Judas Priest. One was like a Black Label Society one. One was Sonata Arca one, I think. And then the other one was Children of Bodom live in Stockholm. And we must have watched that DVD 1,000 times.
Wow.
So Alexi was a huge, huge influence on me. And I loved his playing. But I mean, in the present day now, I mean, there's so many fucking ridiculous guitar players. I mean, I scroll Instagram for 2 seconds and I just want to put that shit in the garbage, because fuck me, man. I mean, there's so much talent out there now.
Yeah.
What I really like, some of these new age guys that play with a lot of feel, like Mateus Asado.
Just thinking of him when you said YouTube as well.
What's that?
I was just thinking of him when you said YouTube.
Yeah. I mean, just amazing. And he deserves, I mean, he is like the Instagram guitar player. And I think a big reason for that is, you know, he's keeping feel alive,
right,
in guitar playing. There's like 1 million shredders out there now.
Right.
And it's cool, but it doesn't really impress me anymore. I don't really care to listen to it. I get inspired by it to, you know, if you look at guitar as like some sort of a sport, it inspires you to get to the next level.
Sure.
But there's some things that are way harder to learn, and it's when it comes to playing with a certain feel and soul. And yeah, Mateus Asado and Chris Buck, somebody like Derek Trucks, these kind of players I think are the ones I gravitate to nowadays.
Gotcha. There's a lot to be said, and I've said it many times, for restraint over unbridled shredding. They both have their place, but I think sometimes it might be actually harder to really play with good, solid feel and restraint, and to be able to craft something that's not just impressive in its technicality, but memorable in its writing, so to speak.
For sure.
Pardon me. And, you know, like it's easy to lose track of that, but when you think back, like a lot of the solos out there that have become like the ones that are renowned and remembered aren't necessarily the blistering ones, and yet one of the top ones of all time is going to be from Comfortably Numb. It's what everybody's going to go back to.
Yeah.
And it's not because it's overly technical or something like that, but because it is that memorable and has that much feel to it, you know. So we're looking at you, Yngwie. So that, I always pick on him. He's the poster child for how many notes a second. So
Yeah, but I will say, I mean, Ingve is an influence on me.
Yeah,
Because of his technique, actually. I mean, the way he plays fast. I mean, there's like certain sequences and stuff that, if you're just going to alternate pick it, it's fucking impossible. But he's like figured out these super cool ways of playing these passages that use economy picking, sweep picking, sort of selective picking, this kind of shit.
Yeah.
And that's why I love Yingwei.
Yeah.
But I know what you mean. I mean, it's
yeah.
I love the guy. I think he's fucking awesome. But I don't listen. I don't feel inspired to listen to his music as much as I would Pink Floyd.
Yeah. No, his talent is absolutely undeniable, as is his ego apparently. So I gotta mess with him a little bit at the very least. But yeah, I mean, like, you can't. He's that well known because he's that good, and he did things that people hadn't seen done before. So,
oh yeah.
But God, I wish he had one more speed. Just to, and by the way, among those positive reviews I've seen for Memorial in particular are at least one reviewer in particular taking some time to emphasize his call for more Cody. So there you go. Somebody's like, you know what? We need more of what he's doing. Let him do more.
I do enough.
There you go. Well, I'll find that one and send it to you next time. You can talk to the guys about
No, but it's flattering that that people like what I do. I mean, it's coming into this band, it was, I had big shoes to fill. This was an incredible player, and I mean, the Soen fan base is just amazing. I mean, they really are, and they're always pumping up and embracing every member of the band, and they shower us with so much love and then gifts when we see them, and everything. And so it just feels like a family, and it's
amazing.
It's just a bonus that they actually like what I'm throwing down.
That's so cool. Speaking of other things you guys did differently this time around, unless I missed it somewhere along the line, I don't recall you guys doing much with guest vocalists. And here we have Elisa jumping in and helping out with the song. How did you guys make that connection? How did that happen?
Yeah, so when we were writing Hollowed, we knew, we felt in the later stages that it needed something to bring it to the next level, and we thought a guest female vocalist would be fantastic. And we had a bunch of ideas. Some of them just fell through, or some of them, for example, one of our first ideas, because she's on the same label as us, was Ann Wilson.
Oh, wow.
But right around the time we came up with that idea, I think she had done a guest spot on a Disturbed song.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So we thought, okay, maybe they did it. So
right.
Let's look elsewhere. And our tour manager / booking agent, Francesco Cabico, is he's Italian, and he's worked with Elisa before. And so he had that connection, and he says, what about her? And we thought, wow, she's incredible. She's, a lot of her stuff is almost like operatic, almost. And Joel is actually a huge opera fan. And so right away, we thought, this could be really good. This could be really good. And yeah, I mean, we didn't really know what to expect, but she killed it on that song. And she sings with there's a rawness in her voice on that track. Just this raw, stripped down, just pure emotion that fit the track perfectly in her voice. I mean, also blends so well with Joel's. we were so happy with the result.
Yeah. It's nice when all that hard work pays off, especially when you're doing it in the midst of other hard work like touring and all that. That's just, like I said, that's an amazing thing to me that, we're in a world where bands can be making new music and a new album simultaneously to touring, as opposed to the traditional tour album cycle, where you get back from tour, take a rest, and then, all right, time to get back to work on the next album. Like on some ways, I guess it's got to be nice to know that even though you probably busted your asses putting that together and doing that all the same time, the work is done. So maybe you can rest and relax a little bit more. I know you guys will be back out on tour again starting in, I think it's March, right?
Yes. Yeah.
March.
The next show we have is actually on my birthday in Norway.
Very cool.
But yeah, I mean, it's like I said before, it's anytime we have a break,
right?
It's not so much a break. I mean, Martin already sent me a photo, like the day he got back home, of him in front of his computer writing new music. So it's begun.
Yeah. I think the really creative types probably never really take a break and never really stop. Like they're just constantly making stuff, and when it comes time to record, they probably already have something ready to roll, and they don't need to create it when it's time to make the album. Like it's time to make the donuts. But like I just spoke with Neil Morse. So I'm like, I swear he's probably got a locker full of stuff. And anytime anybody goes, "Hey dude, you want to record something?" Okay, cool. Let me grab my get my locker here, and he just pulls out a whole bunch of things ready to roll, because it's amazing how to me that people can just keep doing it. Just to have those reservoirs of creativity is amazing to me.
Yeah, it's you gotta have to be some sort of an obsessive personality or something to just keep going at it. But yeah, I mean, the nature of it is that you need to come up with 100 songs to get 10 good ones. It's not every song is going to be a hit,
right?
So you kind of take that into consideration, and that means you gotta be working all the time, and then every once in a while you run into a golden nugget and you work around that.
Yeah,
maybe throw a couple golden nuggets together or whatever. But yeah, it's a lot of work, but we love to do it. I mean, it's one of my favorite parts of the entire process is the writing process.
Right.
It's very hard. I mean, it's taxing, it's draining, but it's so rewarding when you finally get something that sounds like, oh shit, this could be a song.
There you go.
After an entire day of just turds.
Well, it's always good to have a few things in reserve to be unreleased music for the eventual anniversary box set.
Unreleased, yeah. I mean, yeah, there's a million demos that are never going to see the light of day.
Right.
There are some songs that we have recorded that who knows, maybe we'll release them at some point.
Yeah.
But typically when we go in and start to write an album, we trash all of the previous demos from all the other albums. We're always starting fresh.
Nice. Okay.
So there's never that. Some people will say like, "Oh, this just sounds like extras from that album or extras from that." That's not true.
Right.
It's never like that. Yeah, always starting fresh.
Yeah,
because you have to, because you're in a completely different headspace, and you have different goals and yeah, different a different thing you want to achieve with every album. So,
right. And it's there's a lot to be said for a don't look back attitude. you know, that even if it's, whether it's, you know, not going back and digging into old creative stuff where you were, as you put it, in a different headspace versus looking back with regret and things like that. I think the one thing that's always been consistent for the last several albums too, and I gather that's because it's important to you guys and or important to Joel, is the lean towards social issues.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that there always seems to be, you know, this focus on, well, I stuck myself with the term and I can't get past it now, social issues.
Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit, because it seems like you guys have that kind of attitude about, you know, hoping to shed light on things in the world that could improve or that people could be more aware of.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's, for us, it's just a little bit hard to write about anything else, like at the moment. I mean, I think it's really important that the music that you play has a sort of message that everybody backs.
Yeah.
You know, so that when you get up there, you really mean it. And I think the crowd can really feel that when you really mean it.
Yeah.
And, you know, we always joke that it's, you know, it's no time. It's not the time to write about dragons and shit. You know, it's, the world is fucked up on many levels. And so, you know, we have a platform,
right,
to talk about some of these issues. We have a platform that allows people to come together, and, you know, in the name of music, and, you know, everybody can meet in the middle somewhere. You know, you imagine when you're in a crowd of people at a concert, there must be 1,000 different political views and ideologies in the crowd, you know. But finally, they're all standing together and not trying to fucking kill each other for a second, right? Because the reality is that a lot of the world's issues are affecting everybody in the same way. We have a lot more in common than the media makes it out for us to believe. And when you see all of these different types of people taking in the messages of our music in the same way, you really just, I mean, it's touching to us, but it makes you sort of realize that, like, you know, a lot of these problems are so universal. And yeah, I think people are just really appreciating the fact that that we're bringing, that we're talking about them.
Yeah.
And it is, I mean, the things that fans say to us, I mean, it's just, it's incredible. I mean, it's the way that music helps people.
Yeah.
The way that music helps people understand that they're not alone in the ways that they feel or the issues that they're facing. And the hope that they get from, you know, being in a crowd of like-minded people, or having a band scream these issues out, I think is just very important.
Yeah. I have to think that is probably a large portion of the reason your fans connect with you as they do, is they recognize that there is that passion there, you know, behind all the music, you know, that it is absolutely not superficial music in any way, shape, or form, that there's some really deep thoughts and some serious messages there, which, you know, for me, I connect with that personally in many ways. You know, like, I'm not, as you mentioned, like, I'm not one that's going to be really, really big on songs about dragons. Not that there are great ones about dragons. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, I'm not, on average, big on songs that are singing about rock and rolling.
Yeah.
There's some great ones. But, my core is always going to be, and I bring this up all the time, but forgive me, I'm a Rush hit. I've always been Rush,
Yeah.
So, I mean, when that's the core of my sensibilities, of course, I'm going to have that kind of intellectual viewpoint of things, and music with some sort of message, whether directed at the individual or directed at society at large, always resonate with me, probably more so than anything else. But, so I can really appreciate that approach.
Yeah. I'm with you, man. I mean, Rush as an example. I mean, it's lyrics with substance.
Yeah.
You can really dive into it, and there's a lot of strong messages in there. And yeah, I think now more than ever, if you have sort of a platform, you have to use it for the good.
Right.
The world just needs it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not to say that every song we're going to do is going to be completely political or whatever. I mean, there's a lot of personal shit on each Soen record.
Yeah.
It's important to have that kind of lyrical substance as well, because we all go through very dark times or whatever it might be, at a more personal level. And so, yeah, I mean, it's just, we write about real shit. It's just real stuff. And I like to be in a band that writes about real stuff. Because depending on the day, playing different songs might resonate with me in a different way than it never has before. Right. And I get to actually express myself live, and feel that live as well. And, have that reciprocal feeling with the fans as well.
Yeah. It's awesome. All right. So on that heavy note, I guess the one thing I'll ask is, do you plan to take it easy for the next 4 months, or are you just going to be working hard?
I mean, I'm going to be working hard. I mean, these kinds of breaks don't happen very often. And so there's almost, I'm almost feeling like this pressure to do everything that I've been wanting to do for the past couple of years,
Right.
Maybe work on some of my own stuff, maybe work on some of No Mistakes in Space stuff. I'm just excited to be able to be home and just work out every day and then cook nice meals and do that kind of thing. See my friends. I mean, I've barely seen some of my best friends in the past fucking 4 years, spend time with family. I'd like to travel out to see some friends in BC. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of shit I'd like to get done in these 4 months, and of course, I'm going to be working on Soen stuff as well.
Sure,
we have a bunch of plans in the works. Not only to, I mean, we want to start recording some new music, or not recording, but working on some new music, but also we're thinking about extra content and stuff for the fans. And
cool.
So yeah, lots of work to be had, lots of work to be done, lots of things to do. So I'm just I've come to terms with the fact that I'm not a person who can just sit down for a fucking second and enjoy themselves. I think I'm my father's child, go all the time.
Yeah.
But it's okay.
Yeah. Fair enough. Hey, as long as you enjoy it, that's the big thing.
Yeah, I do.
Well, I hope this break is enjoyable for you. I know that the rest of the folks in the Philly area, plus myself, are looking very forward to seeing you in May.
Yeah.
So that'll be awesome. It's a lot shorter drive. Instead of an hour and a half to Baltimore, I can go 15 minutes into the city.
Right on.
That's very cool. So, first time in Philly for you guys, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Excellent. All right. So very cool. Very looking forward to that. And you enjoy your breaks, sir. I thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. I hope the album continues to be exceedingly successful for you, and I hope the tour is as well when you guys get started.
Thanks so much. I look forward to actually, seeing you there in Philly and catch up, have a beer or something.
That would be awesome, man. Very cool.
All right.
Take care, my friend.
Take it easy.
Always a great time talking with Cody. I love hearing about his approach to guitar and the things that are important to Soen and how they make their music and all that, and just his approach to soloing. Very cool time. Thank you very much, Cody, once again for joining me on Bleeding Edge Interviews. I thank you for your time. I'm very, very happy for the critical success that Memorial has achieved up to this point in time, and I certainly hope the sales success and the success of the tour match that, because absolutely should be. It's a great album. You guys obviously worked really hard on it. I'm looking forward to what you do next, and I'm even more so looking forward to seeing you guys finally in Philly. Yay, you're hitting Philly. I'm going to finally get to see you guys in Philly in the spring. I look forward to that. And you know what? I'll take you up on that beer, my friend. Absolutely. So thank you once again. And thank you to all the members of Soen, too. I'll pass my thanks along to them if you could. Looking forward to seeing you guys. And a big thank you if you've been watching this all the way through. Appreciate your time. If you like what I'm doing, you want to see the other content I have, including my song reactions and the other things I'm going to start to add to the channel, do the things if you don't mind. Hit the like, the subscribe, the bell, follow along, get the notifications when I drop stuff, because it'll be sporadic, but it will be busy. Trust me on that. And hey, there's also a link below if you want to check out The Expanse for 24/7 progressive rock and metal. It's got a real nice mix. I think you will enjoy it quite a bit. And hey, follow me on the social medias. The links are down below for that as well. Facebook, Instagram, the artist formerly known as Twitter. I'm on all those and give you some news and give you some updates. And hey, we'll just interact and have some fun, right? That's what it's all there for. So thank you once again for joining me for Bleeding Edge Interviews. Much appreciate your time. That's all I got for you now. This is Super Dave, signing off.